So, hello. And yeah, welcome to the third Zoom. It was always meant to be one Zoom, but it just expanded into three. As people like Anat contacted me and I contacted other people, and we just reached out to more countries. So it became from a must do to something a bit bigger. We had so far two Zooms with 29 speakers from the UK, Greece, Estonia, New Zealand, Poland, Cyprus, Albania, Sweden, Romania, Italy, Portugal, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Mexico, Brazil, Austria, France, Luxembourg, and India. That's so far the game. So we continue with this one. So far, I've muted you all upon entry. You can unmute yourselves to speak, obviously. Feel free to turn videos on and off. We all know about Zoom fatigue. So if you need to turn your videos off. Attendees, please, if you want to turn your videos off and use the function that you can only see the people with videos on, and that way you can hopefully just see the speakers. And if you're using the gallery view, or if you're using speaker view, that's easier. So first we're just going to go into the global check-ins, like lightning talks, and continue on at around probably 5 to open up to a Q&A discussion, whatever it needs to be. I can hold on to this connection until 6 o'clock. So if people want to nip in and out as well, I'm going to be checking the waiting room. I know Friðrik said that he might go out and then come back in. So, yeah, I'm recording it as well for people that can't make it, because lots of people have been asking for all this information in the previous two Zooms. Cool, so no boring you any longer. I'm going to start with Euripides because I know he's one of the two that need to nip in and out.
So, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. So just a few words. My name is Euripides Laskarides, and I'm an Athens-based performing artist. And we were about to tour this year as well. We started touring in March, and right after we did Brussels with a show called Helena, we had to stop because of the pandemic, and then everything is being postponed, as you probably know, from month to month and then from year to year. So most of our engagements this year have been moved to 2021. We were just about to go to Paris early November, but then France closed down their theaters. So the two stops we had in France were postponed to 2021. So I know the description in the email you sent was a touring artist, but I'm not touring, apparently. I wish I were. Just a few things. First and foremost, I have to apologize because I will have to be leaving before 6 o'clock. But hopefully what I say might come useful to the community, my experience and my perspective on what's going on right now. We are a touring company. We create shows and we tour mostly around the world. So what I found as a small gap into what was needed these days was a smart and quick way for the organizations, the institutions, and the traveling companies to figure out a way to deal with the insecurity of COVID. So in our case, a lot of times what we have to do is to have to book collaborators, performers, and crew to tour in, let's say, 2-3 months, or even for next month, and without really knowing if the stop is going to happen. So there is a big question of how do you engage these people? How do you have them commit without being able to guarantee a compensation? And that has been a huge discussion, and it's a big mess with the contracts because COVID-19 is in between force majeure and not being force majeure anymore. So I don't think there's been enough discussion and thought put into this so that the touring can keep on being booked until the last minute, but without the company being in the position of not being able to compensate the people that have been engaged. So that's one thing that I find interesting. More specifically, if I were to go deeper into that, for just maybe somebody's interested to know, specifically with Paris, they were kind enough, and I think in France, generally speaking, as we all know, the government support is strong. So they have a tendency to want to compensate. And then there is a discussion on the percentage of how much of the fee we will be getting. So there was a question between, do we want to get fully compensated, let's say for the stop of Paris, or do we want the institution to give us a percentage so that they can re-invite us? Because it was made quite clear to us, and understandably so, that if we were to be fully compensated for the show that we didn't do, for the performances that we couldn't do, then they wouldn't be able to have the funds to re-invite us. Whereas if we were to compromise and have a percentage of compensation, let's say 30 or 40%, then they would have the opportunity to rebook us. So then one has to think quite creatively, because the first thing people ask is they want your show to be shown online instead of the live, which comes in two different forms. Either they want the show in a pre-recorded Vimeo, or they want the live streaming. I've seen a couple of live streaming, I've seen quite a few actually, not a couple, but lately I've seen some more serious attempts for live streaming with 2 or 3 cameras, and with the absence of the audience taken into account as an element which brought some sentiment, I would say, to the result. But at the same time, even though it was really well done and the shows were adequate for such a thing to do, it felt a little bit like there was something sad, as if in a small funeral, in my understanding. But there are shows like, per se, ours, which has a lot of dark moments, a lot of contrast with the lights, a lot of loud and obnoxious sounds, a language we speak which is not a real language, so people might get confused and not understand the symbolism or my understanding was that our show was definitely not a good show for live streaming, whereas I understand there might be other shows that are perfect for live streaming because they have a basic set and one light, and it's not something super complicated to record. You don't need a lot of preparation. So instead of avoiding live streaming, which can be, institutions at this point can be very pressing, asking from artists to deliver something, we had an idea of creating a Backstage documentary and offering that in return, which we were lucky enough because we were in a theater warming up the piece, as we had not performed for 7 months. So we took the opportunity of creating quickly, within like 1 week, this Backstage documentary, discussing with people who was going to do it, how they're going to do it, and then having the material right now and us editing it so that we can deliver to the institutions. So there's definitely new things that one can think of. I'm going to say one more idea that I find interesting, that lately we've been going into discussions of how one can not portray, but let's say register performing art in paper, especially shows like what we do. We don't have a text. We use either movement or images or language that doesn't exist. So it's a performance / dance / theater. So the question is, how can you put this on paper and then create an interesting publication, perhaps, which can either circulate online or it can circulate on paper. Thus, deal with the fact that we're still doing things, but we cannot do them necessarily on stage with a full audience, with full capacity, or with any audience at this moment. So one question that comes and rises right now is, how can you put this on paper in a way that maybe hasn't been done before? Not in a strict academic way where you just, get people to just write things, dissertations, or critics to write about your work, but you try to find other ways for people to respond to your work and then create something that can represent your artistic universe and deliver that to the audience while you wait for the pandemic to pass. What else was I going to say? Yeah, my last few words would be about what we should expect in the post-pandemic era. From my experience, I know that I've been lucky enough to travel in circuits of festivals that have governmental support and have managed to, even though Greece has given little support the last years, especially because of the crisis, but for many other reasons as well. Nikos spoke quite a bit about that in the previous meeting here. I understand that this might become less real in the years to come. So there is a big question for me, and whoever is listening who is from the UK, you probably know it better than we know it in the rest of Europe, that once governmental subsidy lessens and becomes more of a matter of answering how quickly your impact to the audience is, how quick your impact to the audience is, and when people start to say, okay, how many workshops have you done with children? How many workshops have you done with people over 65? And they start to press artists with results, immediate results. Then there is a section of the art, which I would call the experimental art, that can be shrinked and will not have space to survive. And a lot of times I just pose this question: what would happen if Pina Bausch was asked to deliver what a normal artist is asked to deliver right now to get some funding, if she were in the years where she was given the opportunity to run the Wuppertal Theater with her own artistic choices, without, with people leaving the theater, audiences leaving the theater with in big numbers, before she became what she became, and before she managed to affect the universal, the global performing arts scene in such a profound way. I am very worried that there is no space for a new Pina Bausch anymore, because you cannot request any type of support that just leaves you alone in a basement working with your own quirky art. Maybe you create something interesting, maybe you don't, but that's the thing. But I don't think this opportunity is given anymore to the artists. And I feel that after the pandemic, this is going to be even harder. So I'm just thinking out loud that if there's something to be done from us artists, is to figure out a way to lobby what has been said before and is well known, that the arts is not just entertaining, the arts is part of, maintaining mental health. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope I didn't bore you. I'm really, really sorry that I won't be able to stay up to the end of this discussion to listen to everyone. If I haven't run out of my time, then there might be questions you want to ask about Greek reality.
Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, it's about experimenting as well. It's about funding experimentation rather than all the safe bets, I guess, as well, isn't it? Right, thank you. Moving on to Iceland and Friðrik, who's a director. Friðrik, unmask yourself.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Everyone, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Just a short introduction. I think I have to give some perspective of Iceland. First of all, I'm a theater director. I direct a hosting venue for the independent performing arts in Reykjavik, Iceland, the capital. We are then again the main venue for the independent performing arts in Iceland. So it's the home of the independent performing arts, and then I run the Association of Independent Theaters, which is to be renamed in the Association of Independent Performing Arts in Iceland. And just to give you the scope of Iceland, just remind everyone, Iceland is a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean between Greenland and Norway. And the population is just about 350,000, which is a small city in most of the European countries. But here we have our own language and a vibrant culture and many heroes coming from that scene. And then putting performing arts into that this island perspective in this island is the average attendance on a yearly basis of guests is around 280,000. So reminding ourselves that we are 350,000 that live here. So there's a huge theater attendance in general every year, and including the amateur theater, it's about 360,000 people that go to the theater. But most of the guests are coming to professional theater. The independent scene gathers around 60,000 people per year. So in that context, there's a lot of us creating mostly contemporary performing arts. We have two large theaters only in Reykjavik. It's the National Theater, and then we have the Reykjavik City Theater, with both of them having 3 stages and quite a capacity. But commercial scene is non-existent really in Iceland. So the large theaters are producing commercial stuff mainly for the audience. So the Reykjavik City Theater will do Mamma Mia and Mary Poppins, etc. West End productions, while the focus within the independent performing arts is contemporary, new works, new creations, grassroots, and experimental theater. So and here inside we host most of that. So that being said, of course, the coronavirus, COVID, has affected us as every country in the world, I guess. And in the first wave in March, we closed down the theater from the 15th of March until throughout May. We were open briefly in June, July, where we almost didn't have any virus cases, and then we opened again for tourists, and then the virus started again. And then we closed again there was the second wave. We were closed throughout August, opened up in September, closed again, and third wave in October, and we've been closed since. And now we have restrictions of 10 people and complete. I mean, there's a ban on performing arts. So that's to hold until. This is to hold until 2nd of December, and now we're waiting. And we've been having a healthy dialogue with the Ministry of Culture and the health authorities, and they have, leaked out that they will open for the audience again. And now it's just a matter of time, for how long, for how many, and when will we get the 4th wave, etc. So we're just waiting for the cure, as anyone else. Regarding rehearsals, we've been lucky enough to keep rehearsals going on for all this time. So we've had companies rehearsing and creating stuff in this house. So our refrigerator is full of unpremiered shows. We have a dance show and 2 other performing arts shows that are ready to be shown to the audience as soon as we get the green light. Like everywhere else, there's been a discussion of how can we move the theater from onto like a digital platform and sharing our work in other ways. In my opinion, I think it's I've always said that I mean there is a group of artists that do this really, really well, of taking theater or dramatic productions, and they're called film and cinema and television, and they do it really well. And I think performing arts should not venture in those areas. They can dabble around it with experimentation, but that's the importance and the quality of the work. It's a real life, real-time experience, gathering an audience, and this is why theater has survived since the Greeks, and since we were sitting around the campfire, and people thought that it would be a death of the theater when the film emerged in the last century, early last century, and we're still doing it. We're still performing for a live audience, and this is a period that we have to kind of wait for it, and we have to survive somehow. And the government in Iceland has been kindly enough. They have given us project support, the extra COVID support, and it was the same amount of project funding as the whole annual funding that was dispersed this spring. And we've been given a promise of 40% increase in the fundings for the coming year. So there is some support. And then it's always a matter of how is it, how are we, is it going into the right hands? Are the people who actually experience their loss in the closed down, are they getting the support they can? Because now they're being handed out into the funding systems that already exist, and those are competition funds that you have to apply for. So it's not, maybe the whole support isn't going to those who have lost during this period. So that's my take on it. I don't know if I've exceeded my 5 minutes or if I have more. I'm not
we are almost on the mark of where we should.
Just a quick this research on how to put the performing arts on a digital platform somehow. There was an interesting thing. The Ministry of Culture, there are individuals that came to the Ministry of Culture asking for their support, and there's been a discussion of creating a unified platform supported by the government for performing arts and the music industry, and that's still ongoing. But when it realizes, maybe it's just too late, and that's the reality. One really interesting thing coming from Iceland, we had the Reykjavik Culture Arts Festival, Reykjavik Arts Festival. They did this. They were supposed to be in June, and they took a decision of just spreading the festival throughout the year. And they did this wonderful thing, which is we should all, it's a pilot project they will probably use again and again. So we're learning from this COVID situation that they created art gifts. So you could actually ask for a gift for someone else. You could give your mother a gift of art, and they would have a group of artists. You wouldn't know what you would get, and an artist would come to your door with a contemporary dance piece, music, song, opera, whatever of performing arts, and they would be performed inside or outside your house with the regulation and restrictions that we have. And this was a huge thing in Reykjavik. It was on every social media and it was a huge success. And it's a really a nice idea to like continue onwards with.
It is definitely. It's optimistic and it's quite fun. So yeah, I think it's a lot better than Zoom, as she said. Okay, thank you, Friðrik. Hopefully you can join us again. So we're moving into Montreal in Canada. Sylvie is waiting there patiently. Hi, Sylvie.
Thank you, Mayu, for organizing this meeting from people across the world. It is wonderful. And I was listening to what Friðrik was just saying, performances at the door. We've had these this summer where classical musicians and actors and singers would be not going inside the houses because it is forbidden, but we would be doing it in alleyways and parks and offering these spectacles, these small theater moments and singing moments to people in alleyways and on the street. That was a nice way to go around the problem that we're all going through. Now, I want to bring you up to date to what is happening specifically in Montreal, in Quebec, because Canada is such a wide country. I don't know what's happening in Vancouver. I don't know what are the conditions over there. So let's take it to Montreal, the city. So whether it's a theater or sports or music concerts, the absence of live events have intensified the isolation that is sadly now a core part of our existence. Live theater has been basically shut down since mid-March. It picked up a bit this summer, closed down again. It is sad, and there is sadness everywhere. That said, some of our theaters are presenting performances for one spectator at a time, given that the spectator follows the performer at a distance of 2 meters and is wearing a mask. And it is theater as we are walking in the city. And those shows sell out very fast, and some theaters are providing video presentations of their performances that can be paid for, but we all truly miss playing and attending theater in real time with a large group. Right now, we're in a situation where there's very little movement. Everybody stays inside, and with the cold coming in, we had our first snowstorm yesterday. So what do? So here's where I tell you about stories for life, histoire de vie as it's called. A friend of mine and I have developed a bilingual, very low-tech solution to fighting the isolation the virus imposes on seniors. Right now, we're working on seniors, but it could go to a lot of other people. We want to bring these people some happiness in a safe yet personal manner in real time. This is how it works. I found a senior who has been referred to me. A time is set, and I read to the member over the phone. That's low tech. They don't, it's very easy, it's accessible to that age group. I read authors from here, poets, novels that I have chosen. The reading is approximately 15 minutes long, and then we talk for 15 minutes on the effect that this reading has brought to them. And we've been testing this project on a number of seniors over the month of November. I want to organize it properly so it can extend. Right now I'm doing it in French, it will be done in English to cater to the English-speaking community. And eventually, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish elderlies will have stories and poems read to them over the phone. And the reactions are very positive. A lot of these people speak of peace for the time of the reading, where there is much beauty being brought to them and they forget about the pandemic. They enjoy the special nature of having a performance done exclusively for them and simply enjoying a conversation. And some of these people are aphasic and cannot talk very much, but they too express their happiness. As an artist, this has been very gratifying to me, as well as giving me the opportunity to do a good deed and rewarding me with the opportunity to do what I do best, which is tell a story. And so this type of project is not very sexy. I know it doesn't have to do with international recognition, but it brings peace and a feeling of beauty. And I've been doing this for years in libraries and parks. And I love this idea of sharing this simple pleasure that brings us calming moments, and we need those calming moments. And thank you again, Mayu, for letting us come together. And I think this is, I went over. It's 6 minutes. Oh, well, I'll stop.
Oh,
thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, Sylvie. That's incredible. Thank you so much. I'm sure that people are going to have lots of questions for you later, actually. Moving on to the US and Sean.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure where to begin. I love a lot of what's been said, and I'm making sort of notes about might steal some great ideas from you. First, apologies because I may have to leave early. My son's school is shut down, and we're all in quarantine at the moment. So, the government support for the arts here, I think, at least in the U.S., the government support of arts is anemic in the best of times here. So I won't rehash at least I believe it's well known, our disastrous response to this epidemic in this country. But it has hit artists and theaters especially hard. I know of a number of theaters and colleagues who have had to shut down permanently. The larger institutions seem to be okay. They all have at least 7 or 8 step contingency plans at this point. One colleague of mine in the Midwest, I think they're already on Plan D. So when all this started, our season, we were set. We'd already had considerable sums invested in our show. We were about a week to 2 weeks out from rehearsal when it became very clear that we would have to delay. And about a week later, that it became clear that we would just have to cancel. So we lost our entire season. And across the country, it does seem to me that there are some productions happening. There have been some in-house productions, which surprises me. Most productions I know of have been outdoors. Most productions that are in-house tend to be non-union productions. There's also been a big fight over here between the two main unions, SAG-AFTRA, which is Screen and Television and Radio, and Actors Equity, which covers theater. There's been a huge sort of fight between the two of them over who has rights to stream performances. And they've just come out of mediation for that. But what we decided to do early on in March, I was seeing a lot of Zoom stuff, and you know, I don't say this to denigrate anyone who's doing any sort of Zoom theater or anything like that, because we're all trying to just create and survive this time. But I personally wasn't interested in that, so I began wondering if we could just do some radio theater, some radio plays. So we partnered with a sound design team, and we ship mics to our actors all over the country and all over the globe. And we record everything digitally. No one ever leaves their house. And then we, in post, we end up, you know, mixing it all together with original music and sound effects. And it's actually quite fascinating. It's been a big learning curve, and it's been this strange combination of film and theater. And we rehearse for about a week online, record, as I said, through an audio capture program. If anyone is interested in doing something like that, some of you may already be doing something like that, but I'm happy to share any of the lessons that we learned going through. We're currently in pre-production for our third radio play. You can hear them on our website, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, stuff like that. We offer them up for free. And let's see, what else? I'm hopeful that we'll get back to live theater in fall of 21, but my pessimistic side says it may be spring of 22 for us anyway. I think there will be outdoor theater next summer, but in terms of indoor theater, which is what we do, I don't see that happening until at least fall, but most likely spring of 22, especially if you're a union theater over here. What else? I think, sorry, I'm talking very fast to keep under the 5 minutes. And I don't know, I think I've covered everything. If anyone has questions, if I have time left, I'll take them. But other than that, we can just move on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sean. And do post links in the chat. There is a chat. And yeah, like the things that you mentioned, I think is quite precious information. And people can save the chat, you included. So I think it's quite nice to post links of the projects that you're mentioning. Yeah,
I'll post our website in there. You can find it on the website, but also, as I said, any sort of podcasting platform.
Brilliant. Okay. So another traveling designer, George, has been traveling in the past month or 2 months and trying to put shows on, and he'll tell us all about it. So George, back in France, but what have you been doing?
Hi everyone. I've just come back from Greece, from Athens, and back in March, when, like all of us, we were hit by the news that everything was going to lock down. I was in the middle of rehearsing Don Quixote, the ballet, Don Quixote, and for the Greek National Ballet at the Greek National Opera in Athens. And on the 13th of March, which was a Friday the 13th, which was our the end of our first week of rehearsals on stage, we were told to leave. Basically, everything was going to stop. The director told me to get on a plane and get back home to France, and this wasn't going to happen because lockdown was about to happen. So I left on the Sunday. France locked, I think Athens locked down on the Monday, France locked down on the Tuesday. So I was very lucky to come home because, you know, flights were cancelled and everything. So during the summer, the director of the ballet company kept talking about different ideas of when we would resume, and they said that we would resume, well, the season started back in October, and that the ballet would happen in November 21st, which was 2 days ago, 2 days ago. And so 2 weeks ago, I went to Athens. But by that point, they had started rehearsing, but by that point, Athens was in lockdown. So the decision was taken that we would film 2 rehearsals, one being on the 21st of November and the next one on the 22nd, and then edit them and broadcast them as a streaming, as a film of the performance. They would have 8 cameras, very professional, very good team of people filming it. So I went to Athens, and of course, I don't know whether many of you have flown in this during the lockdown thing, but it's quite, what's the word? It's quite unsettling having to fly, well, having to go in an airport and with your mask and being in around many hundreds of people. And unfortunately, because I live near between Avignon and Montpellier, I had to fly from Montpellier to Paris, from Paris to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Athens. So it was basically 4 airports and 3 flights. I was petrified. I have to say, I was petrified. I mean, we do a lot for our art, but it's quite unsettling, I have to say. And having survived that, as it were, when I arrived in Athens, I had to have a test, and they have a 5-hour turnaround of the results. So I got the result on Tuesday about 5 o'clock, which was negative, and then at 6 I was in the theatre and we started rehearsals. So again, it was very, very difficult, and obviously very unusual, but very difficult being in a theatre. And because I'm like all designers, as you know, we are there from morning till, the rehearsals finished at 11. I wouldn't be home before 11:30, which meant that sometimes I would wear a mask for more than 12 hours. Well, it was more than one mask, because everyone keeps telling us that it should be every 4 hours, you should change your mask. So I had a whole pile that, I used during these 2 weeks of rehearsals. And in the second week, we also had a second test to make sure that nothing was circulating in the theatre. But of course, you're around, 70, 80 dancers, the team, there's all sorts of people, props, blah, blah, blah. So yes, we all get tested, but then you go home and you might have a dinner party or whatever, secret dinner party or whatever. So it was, we did all keep our distances, and we did all adhere to the rules. And we did do some very, very good work. And the dancers were working hard. We were working hard. We managed to finish the show, which we hadn't managed to finish back in March. And even changed lots of ideas, because it's a quite a big show with animation and a lot of things going on. So we managed to develop it in a very quick way, which is sometimes the best way as well. So we kind of, we were very happy with where we were going, I have to say. And unfortunately for me, there was a dispute between the ballet dancers, the ballet company, and the management, and also between the orchestra and the management. Because of the orchestra, we had to put back the filming by a day. So the filming was going to be last Sunday, 2 days ago, and today. And because of the dancers' dispute, on Sunday, we started, the rehearsal started at 7, they went on strike at 8. So all our efforts were basically thrown out the window. So the decision was taken that they're not going to film it at all, and it will only be performed live if and when the theatre's open. So at the moment it's planned to open on the 19th of December. If the theatre's, I mean, Euripides probably knows better than I do because he lives there, that whether it's going to be, I don't know that the theatres will open before Christmas anyway. So they've also penciled in a period in May, 5 performances in May. So if it doesn't happen in December and it happens in May, I might go back and put it on for a 3rd time, which is kind of quite unbelievable, really. But what can you do? So it's not easy traveling and working during COVID, as you know, and it's I'm very happy to hear when people say, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and it happened and we've performed it or whatever. But if it ever happens, I'll let you know.
My instinct in all the Zooms when people are saying that something is happening or they're doing something is as if it's something is a bit naughty and you're actually doing it. We're actually performing, or we're actually Zooming, or we're actually doing some sort of theatre. It's almost like it's illegal and naughty that we are doing it.
It's a bit like
that. In those dark spaces. Thank you so much, George, for sharing this.
You're welcome.
So I will move to Denmark, and actor director Mia are you there to unmute yourself and talk to us?
Now you can hear me?
Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so yes, I'm with you from the middle of the woods in Denmark, in West Jutland. I don't know if you know the country, but it's the other side of Copenhagen. Yeah, there is a very well-known theater here, which is called the Odin Theater. Also now changing a little bit these years, but it's the Odin Theater and Nordic Theater Laboratory. And that's where I work. And just short presentation. So I trained there when I was in my early 20s and worked there as an actress for some years. Then I moved to the UK, where I mostly worked as a theatre and opera director, which is where I know Mayu from. And in London, I established a theatre company called Riotous Company, which is still existing. But I haven't managed to do anything with Riotous in this period. So I have to say it's just sleeping. So I will speak a little bit about what's happening in Denmark. So in March, it very quickly became clear that the big festivals that were happening in the summer, where I had 2 big premieres, one new opera and one big theater performance, they were basically cancelled. Not in March, but early April, I think. And there was a close down, as we all know, and there were different sort of compensation models in these cases. And I should say, like, I think we have been privileged because we have been at least partly compensated for the work that was supposed to happen. It's taken time and a lot of sort of detective work to find out how and so on, but we've been able to refocus some of our work situations to do things this summer. And this summer there was many openings to do work a little bit similar to what some of you described, more community engaging work outside old people's homes, or in gardens, or, you know, meeting people where they would sit inside and not be able to come outside, or the same, a song in an alley, or a lot of work this summer with young people when restrictions were loosened up, and in neighborhoods where it would be nice for something to happen, something positive for example, young people. And this was sort of, I mean, it's something that I think we as artists from this company and myself, I'm happy to do. I was always happy to include it as part of my work. I think it's important to be in touch. So it was quick to find material to put out there. And also the funding from the government became specific in that way, that you could apply like very short term and gain a bit of money for this kind of very specific events. So that would be a way for us to, you know, catch up with some of that lost work. And then in the, it's sort of late summer, we still had an opening to do different work. I remember I did a project in Copenhagen, which is where we worked in sound studios, which is, you sit really close by each other, and of course as actors you record in a sound studio. We had 2-3 people in the room and so on. So there were these sort of periods where we could, all of a sudden we could do some work, and we've had rehearsals going on different shows. There have been international participants coming to Denmark as well since August, and there are still people there, and they've taken part in workshops, you know, with all sorts of restrictions around and testing and so on, but things have been happening. And where a lot of the international touring that couldn't happen was then replaced, out of necessity, to really stay in touch with some of those places, was replaced with broadcasting of live performances or live workshops, which I think was very interesting. Live workshops where 2 rooms managed somehow to speak together via the people. That was interesting. And now we've had we've had the second wave hitting us since October, and many restrictions again, new work cancelled. I personally had to do some work with very small children in institutions, and we are not allowed to go into the institutions at the moment. So all of that was cancelled. So it's just, but then new pools of money were put out to do other kinds of activities. So it sort of follows each other a little bit with what the government is able to come up with on you know, on a short notice. And it doesn't happen from one day to another, and yet a lot of activities happen. So you know, I think we should be happy. Then we have a new situation with the mink. I don't know if you heard about the mutations in the mink, the animals that I have to say that Denmark terribly produces quite a lot of. And there were mutations found in of the virus found in mink, and all farms have been closed down, and the animals have been put down, of course. And I just have one really really horrible image from that today, from the radio, where they talked about these mass graves of mink animals. I mean, thousands and thousands, and they said they have actually resurfaced. It's just so horrible. But yeah, it means that we have further closed down. So Holstebro, this area has a lot of that kind of farming, or had. And so, for example, right now we are not allowed to receive international guests at the theater. And also we have further restrictions in society. So very flexible, adapting requirements for the artist, I think.
It is flexible. I was just saying only last week though that it's a bit counter opera, for example, with such a movement in opera and the singers moving in and like in and out of countries. And right now we need to keep it really close knit in the same country. It's really that, like, you can't get people from all over the world.
Yes, and I think actually the Odin Theater did manage to keep the international collaborations to a degree. And I know that on one of my other workplaces is an opera company, and our opera, which I'm writing and directing, it was postponed till next year. But it's already, the big festival next year has been cancelled because it's a very community engaging festival, and they already see now that it's not gonna, it cannot happen. So we will be in a smaller festival with this opera. But the opera company decided that we could absolutely only have Danish artists. And that's a great shame, because we had some wonderful, wonderful international singers and artists in the project. So it hurts, because it's the artistic, community, it's your close collaborators, and it's hard to be cut off in that way. Thinking already so far ahead, I mean, this was decided months ago. So thinking like that for next summer, I know you all know the situation, and it's, but yeah, I suppose that is a bit painful that you have to make some compromises like that, even thinking about next summer or next autumn. It's still going to be like that.
Or hopefully not.
Well, let's see. Yeah.
Thank you, Mia, so much. So I think we're going to hop on to Israel, where Anna is waiting. She has lots to share with us. So,
hello, everybody. Well, things in Israel is like in some other countries that have shared over those 3 meetings. We stopped everything last March, the Ides of March. And there was a tiny experiment for 2 weeks with the Fringe Theater. We managed to see few shows, but it all closed down completely. And as someone said before, last time, I think, from Mexico, the government doesn't care about it. We haven't been
compensated?
Compensated, that's the word, I don't know why. Very, very little, and we are last on the list of things to come back. We are in total lockdown. Children are now, some of them, we're experimenting of going back to school, but otherwise they are locked at home, Zooming all day. and we've got those jokes about everybody's zooming, which in Hebrew, to zoom, mezamzem, is like a bee. So we are all over, which we never heard about this program before, you know, about being able to Zoom. We just got introduced to this thing, and everything is there. But, well, I'll say something. I'm a designer. I've been the head of the Society of Israeli Stage Designers. Now I gave up my position of that because there's nothing to do, but all the militant things against the government and all, I left to the young people. I'm very involved with everything that's going on in the country. I'm in all kinds of committees and all kinds of stuff like that. Amongst them are what I sent a link in the chat, starting in 2 or 3 days. Should be very interesting, is the Israeli showcase of theater. There'll be very interesting discussions around the shows, and some of them are going to be shown full length. The ones that are going to be shown were, of course, filmed before this terrible disaster started. And I wanted to say something very important. The whole COVID thing came to Israel whilst we were after 3 indecisive elections. The country is actually divided to many groups, but basically what concerns the elections is right and wing and the left, right wing and left wing. A bit like in the States, but the hatred between the 2 parts has been stimulated and grown and fueled by the government, so that, and most of the artists, of course, are the left, on the left side, you know, as usual. And what happened here is that being left in your thoughts or in your ideas became being a traitor. And there's such a lot of clashes and hatred that it's unbelievable. And now we're going, apparently, what happened is to break the deadlock, one of the parties, the one that was more left, decided to give in, and just in order to avoid a 4th election and to fight the COVID, you know. So the whole business of art has become a protest against the government. We are still, I'm staying still very sadly, because we don't know where we're going. If this government is going to continue, we'll probably stop being a democracy. But we're still a democracy. And the right of protest is still above everything. We're still holding on to that. So what happens is that there are a lot of demonstrations almost every day of artists and people from the arts and all the culture business, everything that's beyond the art as well, you know, all the people who built and people who light and all the stage hands and everything around the whole thing, music, art, theater, everything, film as well. all this has been shut down and no compensation. I managed to say the word. And really very, very, a lot of hardships. People are now getting food rations. We're going, you know, really, not from the government, from private places. It's very sad. And there's no horizon, nothing. There is some very interesting attempts now. There was one made yesterday, actually, collaboration with the largest hospital and best hospital in Israel, together with 2 municipal theaters in Tel Aviv. And they're gonna bring it to be recognized, you know, to do a quarter of an hour test before shows, to test people and get in quarter of an hour a result, and so they can go into the theater and, you know, whoever is, of course, approved, not sick, has got a, and we don't know yet if the government will approve of it, but if it's going to be approved, we hope that the audience will come and be and agree to be tested. You know, it's not a pleasant test. If any of you have been tested, George, you have been. It's not. I've been also several times. Maybe it will work. We don't know, but the government now is quite happy that we are not allowed to perform and that we are shut down. And because we are in opposition, so it's good for them. But unfortunately, now we are hearing talks about the 4th, apparently in March or a bit later, we're going to have a 4th election, which I assume will be again right 50-50, and not be able to form a government. So there's no budget because there's no government, and there's really a total standstill of everything. But people are doing a lot of things, and most of the things that has been mentioned here, like door to door, like doing things in parks, in backyards as well, are all the time being done. You know, people, we will not let them shut us down. But it's been very, very political. People forget that the culture is shut down all over the world, not only in Israel, that we're not solo in that, but they refer it and they really take it against the government. What I tried before if you'll allow me, Mario, I'll try and get another share screen. I moved something differently now, maybe it will work. To show you, there was last night in next to Habima, the National Theater, and the Man Auditorium, which is the culture center. It's one big place there. They gave the prizes for the Fringe Theater, the yearly prizes. You know, the shows that got the first 7 prizes. We chose, I was on the committee as well, 7 shows that got the prizes. And there was some sort of demonstration, because I said demonstrations and protests are allowed. So we did a protest against the government, and between or inside that, they gave the prizes. So if I might manage to show that. Yes, no, this is another one. You see that? You see this picture now? Okay, this is a protest of what do you call it? Giving a concert. What do you call a group that gives a concert? how do you call it? Help me.
È una prova d'orchestra.
Orchestra. It's a very good orchestra. It's from Rishon-LeZion, which is a city, and they did like a protest. They're giving a concert, outdoor concert, just outside the municipality of Rishon-LeZion. I'll give you just a few seconds of it. It's a very good. You can hear it? Oh, we're having trouble playing the video. Okay, so I'll stop share. Okay, so things like that are happening as long as they're called demonstration or protest. And it's been like yesterday, I don't know if maybe I'll try, it's really nice what they did yesterday. A whole happening. Yes, I can do that. Just a second. Hello. Oh, I'll show you a few, they did a locks. It was really fun. They had huge locks and they hang it all over the place. It was really a lot of fringe theater, and it was all protests. It was wonderful. Everyone, of course, with masks and distancing and a lot of ironic stuff. And they've got a lot of in the Arab Hebrew theater, there's in Jaffa, which is a bilingual theater. They've got protests. They were the first ones to go out in protest. Every Thursday or something, they did theater readings and songs and stuff like that. They're allowed. To put a whole show like that, they're not allowed. Nothing, no sense whatsoever. What's the difference? We don't know, but we do it as a protest like that. And next week, it's going to be there in the Arab Hebrew theater. It's going to be the dance, the protest. All dancers will come and give pieces, and of course the audience is limited, but and that's it. We'll see what's happening. We don't know. That's a taste of what's happening here.
Thank you so much. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions on that as well. Thank you, Anna, so much. Another designer perspective from Finland. Are you okay to take over, Anna? Is that okay?
Yes. So hello, I'm Anna Sinkkonen from Finland, and I'm a freelance designer. I'm happy to take part into this conversation. And thank you for inviting me as well. So I don't know if you heard already, there was one other Finland designer talking in the first session, but I tell you a little bit about the situation in spring. Finland had a lockdown starting on the 16th of March, sorry. And the virus was expanding strongly, and the whole country was closed and under the same rules and restrictions for over 2 months. All the social venues were closed, schools, libraries, restaurants, everything. And we couldn't travel even inside Finland. But people were following the orders really carefully, and the first phase ended quite soon. So there are 59 state-supported theatres and dance companies in Finland, and also over 40 theatre companies outside the financing law. We are 5.5 million inhabitants, and there are 2.5 million sold tickets. There were in 2019, so one could say that Finns are going to theatre a lot. So all the theatres were closed for over 2 months until end of May. And some of the workers were laid off temporarily. Almost 60% of all performances were cancelled, if we look at the whole spring. And also all the big festivals were cancelled. The state funded theatres by an extra 9 million, which helped theatres to survive until now, I suppose. And the situation looked a bit brighter for a moment. There are many summer theatres, and there were performances during the summer, and there were film productions made in the summer and during the autumn as well. Even one Hollywood production came to shoot in Finland because our situation was so good. But yeah, and in August, the theatre houses opened again, and the rehearsals and performances started, although only 50% of the audience were allowed in. So during this autumn, we have been following how the second phase of the virus is landing here, and it has been slow, but it's getting worse and worse. And just now, actually, yesterday, the mayor of Helsinki announced new restrictions, and the theatres closed again. This time only in Helsinki area, but today, actually just a few hours ago, the city announced that all the social venues are closed again, at least for 3 weeks. And this is really a disaster for theatre companies that have been struggling with all the normal expenses and some new expenses, but only half of the income. And Helsinki City hopes now that with these new restrictions, the second phase would come down in 3 weeks. I doubt it, but let's hope so. And people are really tired and not so willing anymore to do what is asked. In spring, we all said that luckily it's not November, and well, now it's November, and I don't know if you know how dark it is here in Finland in November and having this crisis. So it's really, really hard. And the future of a freelancer worries me a lot. I have read theatre directors here saying that next year they won't be able to hire that many freelancers, and maybe not planning any big productions because of their high expenses. And this is, of course, even worse for the performance, but also for us designers. We are around 300 designers here, from which only 70 with permanent contracts and the rest freelancers. Me personally, I was supposed to have 2 opening nights this autumn, but it was postponed by 1 or 2 years. So the future work is really unsure. It's of course hard economically, but also socially. As a freelancer, I don't have a company around me when I work, and now when not working, I barely meet any colleagues. So the whole nation is suffering without culture and art meetings. we really lack live performances. Yeah, like it was said in the first session, I also think that theater really is a medicine. So I hope we get more of that really soon. And also I hope we get vaccination, of course. So
Yes, we've reached
hoping for medicine for everybody.
There's a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel about vaccination, at least. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Anna. And it's great to have sometimes different perspectives of the same country as well. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we're going to jump to Serbia. Hello, Olga is there.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Olga Dimitrijevic, and I'm playwright and dramaturg and director from Serbia. And I will just give you a brief overview of the situation there, which is, well, in some aspects quite similar to some other European places, actually, in the sense that we have the system of state theaters that are funded by the state, you know, like big institutions that employ a lot of actors mainly, and also some other artistic stuff. And also there is independent scene who is dependent on state Ministry of Culture funds, city funds, European funds, and who basically is trying to make ends meet most of the time. So COVID happens, and the first thing that that was around was a very strict lockdown, one of the most strictest that we had in Europe, which actually, I think that Serbia was the first country that introduced this curfew thing, which was like, there were curfews that would last for 3 days, for the whole weekend, starting from 8 in the evening, without anyone being allowed to leave their homes. Plus that people who were older than 65 at the moment were not allowed to leave their apartments as well. So it was very strict. Of course, theaters were closed. And the way how government reacted was some small injection of money to, after long negotiations actually, they agreed to give some money to people who are registered as independent artists or as artists. And they paid something like 3 minimum wage salaries for 3 months. But the problem with this is not only that minimum wage is very small, but also that there is a lot of people who were not part of this governmental help because they're not registered as artists, although they're practicing art all the time. The reason why they're not registered is some really, well, let's say horrible tax system that we have here for independent artists that practically sort of keeps you in the poverty all the time if you want to play it in a regular way. Anyway, the first wave, so-called wave, stopped, and the whole country was reopened all of a sudden. The elections were coming, so the opening was really huge. So the theaters were opened at that moment as well. But it became clear very from the beginning that the budgets will be cut. Already in the first lockdown, it was clear that city governments started withdrawing budgets for the whole year 2020, and that and even some of these competitions for funding for the independent scene simply stopped. So there was a lot of struggle to actually make them going on and things like that. But what happened next is the second wave came already in June, and it was quite harsh actually, since the government allowed the elections and the mass gatherings and things like that. So the health system was very under very much pressure. So in one moment, theaters become closed again. Actually, no, sorry. Theaters were not opened for all this time. They opened only somewhere at the end of summer. Everything else was opened, but theaters were not opened, and performing arts were somehow in this kind of let's say middle space between closed theater institutions and events that would happen on the outside, sort of unofficially, or within some different programs, like, I don't know, art exhibitions or something like that. They wanted to open theaters on the open, in the outdoor space, but because of the second wave, it was also cancelled in one moment. And very soon, after a lot of negotiations between cultural sector and the government allowed theaters to open. So we started working again, and it became clear that actually nothing functions, in the sense that there is a lot of, everybody started rushing to have their premieres before we are closed again. And very quickly it became clear that our theaters and our institutional theater actually doesn't have any kind of strategy to deal with this situation, and doesn't think, although it's been 6 months since the beginning of the pandemics, actually it seems like they would love to have everything as it used to be. If we could only forget about this pandemics, and if we could go back to the good old ways of making standard institutional theater, and everything would be fine. And at the same time, pandemics revealed how big inequality is between people who work in the field, and how big inequality is, on the one hand, between people who are employed and have their salaries and people who are in precarious positions, or independent artists and freelancers. And it became clear that actually there is no solidarity between artists themselves whatsoever, in the sense that they're actually thinking about this class dimension of our work. And it was also very interesting to see how some of the big festivals actually, it was very visible in how big houses and big festivals acted. Because, for example, the biggest theater festival in the state, like competition between performances that we made in the state in the last year, it was postponed 2 times, and then for the 3rd time it was held with like it was super spreading event, absolutely, without any kind of even a reflection to what could happen to people who come to the festival or who perform at the festival, and without any kind of desire to actually maybe make us feel safer. Although at the same time, there is quite a lot of colleagues who are actually becoming really ill, or maybe there are some colleagues who cannot attend the festivals as well. So the thing that happens then, like for these 6 months, the theaters were closed. And during these days without performing arts, actually there were some attempts to make something, but they practically were coming from more independent structures, so to say, and sometimes institutions would be open for it. Me and my friends actually managed to make one show like that when everything was closed, because it was based to, it was made in the institution, but there is 5 of us and nobody's actor actually. We're all we're writers and we're performing our thing. And then we were joking, okay, we're going to make this kind of COVID-friendly show that is that will follow all the rules, epidemiological measures and things like that, so that we can actually start maybe reacting as professionals in this during these pandemics, and that we can react to the pandemics in our professional and creative way, in the sense, okay, we cannot be in the theater hall, but we can have the theater in some other form and shape. And we actually thought that maybe it will, you know, and we were trying to open the dialogue with directors of the institutions or with other people in the field, but somehow more or less the general feeling is, although quite a lot of people agree with me, that somehow it's easier to maintain status quo and just to wait for things to reopen than to actually think about, you know, inequalities and power structures within our own field. That's the situation more or less today. Now, new measures say that nothing is allowed to be opened after 6 o'clock p.m., so theaters as well. So I don't know if we're going to perform at noon or 1 or 2, whatever. The bigger problem than the virus will actually be the economical aspect of the whole thing. There is no more state help. Some artists never got any help whatsoever. There is no jobs. Everything is getting postponed. Everything is uncertain. And in combination with overall bad economics of the country, I would say that very, very dark days are ahead of us. But we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olga. That was so concise and it was incredible. And I'm sure there's lots of similarities across countries, but each country is really telling a different story. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
2 more speakers, I think. So I'm flying from Serbia to Egypt, and Maher.
We stopped all theater activities since the end of March, and in end of March, like 27 or something like this, every theater is closed, and you know, in Egypt, the 2 months after March, April, and May, that's a lot of theater festivals is started. But it is all stopped because the university is stopped. Also, the festival in university is stopped, theater festival, and the National Egypt Festival is stopped, and contemporary dance is stopped. Then we start in online, and it's not something we do in Egypt. We didn't use online every time like another world, but we start online workshops, and we starting to make theater performance or like rehearsals in the home, maybe 3 hours online workshops, something like that. And in my team, I make theater team for street theater. It's named Teatro Metro, and we make some performances in metro or in streets. We starting to make workshops for children, for storytelling, and for acting with the camera, because they staying in home, and how they can use the camera for acting like short scenes or like short films, 1 minute or something like that. Then we start to make our workshop. It's named Naughty Children Workshop, and we make a Naughty Children Workshop. It's acting for children, and we make like 6 workshops online, like 14 children. They starting to make videos online or and acting in their home. Maybe they also getting the cartoon and they translate in Arabic or something like that. then we last 2 months we starting to make the theater is backing again and everything is open again. But you can say the productions companies trying to product any theater performance or any film because they thinking it's well close again, and they have I think they have that solution because everything is we didn't know it's well close again or not. But we starting to going to theater back with masks with 1 meter or 2 meters far away people, and in open areas in Opera House in Cairo we make a big space for open air to performances, and every day we performances in that open air, 2 or 3 performances per day. Until now, that didn't close. It stay on, and sometime we make 2 festivals online. It's I am trying to make one with some friends. It's online mobile theater festival, and another one it's a national festival. The culture is starting to make it online and also in live. It's make 2 festivals, one online and another one is in live theater with the masks and with far away 1 meter. But it's not working because in I think and I believe in theater it's in online it's not real theater. We didn't feel it theater because the people in theater it's that theater in when you breathing and you feel the actor breath and movement in the real life, it's not look like you can see him in mobile or in TV screen or laptops or something like that. Because of that, we trying to make that performance in live with caring. We trying to care each other. I think we can't close again, but every time they say we will close again. I hope we close again because COVID-19 it's well trying again to make the another wave, but I every time saying for my team we will be to make something in the theater in street for people, because I think also with my team the people is coming to theater, it's not a real people watching. We want to them watch our performance, because in Egypt, not also only in Egypt, in a lot of countries the people going to watch theater, they already be theater people, they already actors and content creators and designers, the people when you can catch them in theater. But the people in street, I think that's our target audience in Teatro Metro, my team. I think it's our target audience. The people can't coming to theater or to close theater. Because of that, we going every time to street to make performances or to make something like that. We're trying now to make performance in new country in Egypt. It's Asmarat. and we will make it with a bus. We going up the bus, a big bus. We going up it, and we will perform up it, and people can watch the performance when we going around another places to perform it again. I want to say in final thanks God for COVID-19, because we trying to make something new, because I think when we needing something specific, we trying to creative another way to get it. Because of that, I say thank you for God, and thank you for everyone listening to me. Just it.
Thank you so much, Maya. So thank you for joining us today and for sharing all this. I think you've got messages in the chat as well. Our last person for today is Nagma. Nagma, are you here?
Yeah.
Hi, hello.
Hello, how are you?
To give us the Persian perspective from the States, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. Okay, so talking about Iranian theater, you know, is kind of crucial, complicated subject. But before starting to talk about what happened after this crazy pandemic, I need to tell you that what was the situation before the pandemic, because without knowing that, you never can understand what really happened afterward. So before pandemic, you could find over 100 shows, I mean, literally 100 shows every night in Tehran, which is the capital. So just with this example, I wanted to convey this idea that how lively was theater before pandemic in Tehran. And there were two different kinds of theater rooms. One was kind of governmental ones, and the other one, the private ones. And the censorship were the same for both. So I mean, it didn't matter. It wasn't matter that where do you want to perform. So it was 100. I mean, I can't say brilliant shows, but 100 semi-brilliant shows every night, from young generation to very old generation on the stage every night in the city like Tehran. But actually, what happened after pandemic was and is a disaster. I think it's the same in any other countries. And I think none of other arts have been destroyed as much as theater did, because it's very alive, I mean, art and a live way of communication. So, okay, what happened is that it was around March, a little bit later than maybe the other countries, that the government accepted that there is this virus. And before that, everyone just wanted to deny and neglect that something is happening globally. So afterward, okay, the government started to push theater groups and theater companies to continue their shows, just to show that everything is normal. They really wanted to normalize everything in the country. So that was kind of very weird challenge in between theater performers and the government. Theater performers really wanted to tell them that, okay, it's not possible, nobody come to see or play. And the government wanted to push them to have their own performances just to normalize the situation. So I have very close distance experience with that. One of my play was on a stage at that time. I mean, it was to go to a stage at that time called Infant. And I closely was following their struggle with the government, that okay, we really don't want to perform in this time because we won't have enough audience, and we really want to do something like usual, and it's very, very dangerous for our performers to be in indoor place in this crazy time. But they were pushed to have this performance just to show that how normalized is everything, how everything is just before. But anyway, okay, it was clear that they couldn't insist in this idea. So I know that it was around September that all the theater in Iran were shut down. They were all closed because, for so many reasons, because of the increasing the numbers of the dead people and who were infected by this crazy virus, and then because nobody literally didn't go to indoor theater to they didn't want to sacrifice themselves for theater. I know. I actually, sometimes we were talking about why don't audience or normal audience, why they don't care about us, why they don't support us, why they don't come to theater to show how they are caring about us. But I know that these are not realistic ideas, because for audience, the health is more important than anything. It's just like us. So I can't blame the audience why they don't come to see us in indoor theater. So after September, it was after September that everything was shutting down. The situation now is worse than worse in Iran about theater practitioners and theater performers. Actually, not at this moment. I'm in Seattle. I'm not in Tehran, but I'm very connected with all the happenings in Tehran. So I know that everything is like a disaster for theater performers. There is no salary, nothing from the government to theater performers. The government really tried to deny that even these kinds of people were existed. So they are out of any help. And then the other thing is that so many private theater rooms are going to be closed, and many of them already have been closed because of the shortage of the income. So they don't have any income to continue. Most of them just rent a place to make it as a theater room. So they don't have enough money, so they need to just close it. That is one of the most and the biggest problem, because nobody knows that what will happen after the COVID. Because when this crazy pandemic leave us at the end, will people again like to or interested in to invest in theater, invest in opening new theater rooms? So nobody knows. It seems that it's not just a pandemic time. It seems that it is like we need to think about afterward. Because, okay, I believe that, I hopefully believe that this crazy situation will leave us, hopefully as soon as possible, and we have now good news from vaccines and something like that. But nobody knows what happened afterward. I think the problem, the real problem will show its face after this crazy time, especially in a country like Iran, in which investment is a big issue. So, okay, so, but theater performers, like any other people, are hopeful and they are resilient. So they are trying to survive this crazy time. For example, we have tried some outdoor theater. Okay, so this is also now, I mean, at this time, they all are also closed because of the number of the dead people are murdered. But the problem is that even when people went to outdoor theater, still audience couldn't trust. So even in outdoor theater, people felt not comfortable to be in outdoor and watch theater. So, okay, so some of them tried to experience outdoor theater, which in my opinion was not successful in terms of capturing the audience. Some others, like other countries, try to make some online theater performances. I know that all theater practitioners hate of online theater, but okay, this is the only way that we have now. So some people try to do that. That is great to make their creativity alive, but nothing happened in terms of their economical problem. So yeah, live theater, I mean, online theater is great for finding new language, of talking with audience through Zoom or through any other online devices, but that is not a solution for economical problem. And then some others just try to find a job in cinema or in TV, because in cinema and TV, everything is just as regular. I mean, they are working as usual. It's just theater that just has been shutting down. And some others, I would like to finish my statement with this idea that what happened for the others. I mean, the very, very last part of this community are in a very, very difficult economical situation. I think that it's like a disaster. I know many of my professional friends who has nothing to do. They just imprisoned in their own places, in their houses. They have nothing to do. They are in a worst economical condition, and I am not sure that what will happen afterwards. So I think after this crazy pandemic, we will encounter with a community of depressed theater practitioners in Iran who are too depressed to be creative. And I think we really need to think about that. But I personally have no solution. I'm just thinking about that. Thank you so much for having me and giving me this time to talk about this important problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nakoy. That was brilliant. Almost right on the mark at 5, so we can open it up to discussion with everyone. Can all Sylvie. Hello.
Hello. I raised my hand because I have some feedback to give to some of these. As it was a fantastic moment, and I really enjoyed listening to your different stories. And as you were speaking, I took some notes. Olga, I want to be on your thinking team. I really enjoyed your description of what was happening in Serbia, the play for power, the details in your description was fantastic. And I would have liked to be able to say, oh yeah, and here, and how about you? So it was a very good communication moment. And this meeting has me thinking about the essence of theater. We're going through a change of paradigm. For us, for centuries, it has been so that theater would happen when people would be together in real time and experimenting just about the same type of emotions. Do we agree? Is this not a viable description of theater? And now we have to have some of those elements taken out. What will they be? Where are we going? I'm really enjoying this moment, Mayu. Thank you for organizing it once more.
Thank you so much for being here. So yeah, attendees can also put the cameras on, and if they have questions, yeah, whoever has questions or provocations or remarks or anything.
I wanted to ask Maher. Maher, would you, when things back to normal, do you think it would be possible for you to come with your group to Israel? Politically, I mean, or would you be interested to try to make it possible? I'm talking about maybe a few months from now when it's all over.
I have no problem with my team to going any place, anytime. If we didn't have something here, we can travel to going any place to perform or to learn something.
Now, of course, but nobody can go anywhere. But I'm talking about in few months, maybe, or a year, when COVID is over.
For sure, for sure.
Yes.
If it's ended, we can travel.
Because we've got a lot of festivals and a lot of street theater going on. So it would be very interesting maybe I can make the contact with people, you know. We've got Children's Theater Festival, always in Haifa. And then we've got Fringe Festival in Akko. And then we've got a lot of other festivals in Jaffa.
Okay,
which are yearly, you know, every year.
You can find my email in chat, and you can send me your mail. Sure, yeah. We can contact.
Good.
If I can say something, thank you, Sylvie, for nice comments. And thank you, Mayu, for organizing this, because somehow it was really lovely to hear not only different experiences from different parts of the world, but for me personally, also as an artist, was very good to hear different examples of how people would, you know, find their way around the state policies on the one hand, and on the other hand also demands of, you know, pandemics and being careful towards each other and caring about each other, and still making performing arts. So I will take that from this conversation, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the call.
Well, I wanted to ask Anat something about these performances / demonstrations you were referring to in Israel, that happened in Israel. I would like to know how people, spectators, basically, how do they react to these?
Well, if you are pro whatever you demonstrated, you join in and you applaud and you abide and you listen and you join in. But if you're against, you demonstrate against, and then it can be can become rough. There have been several clashes between pro-prime minister and against prime minister, which is the main issue here, you know, for Bibi or against Bibi. I don't know how involved you are in the or the Israeli politics. I wish Trump will take Bibi with him. Sorry. Yeah, it can cause problem and can cause counter demonstration and clashes between demonstrators. There have been some very ugly demonstrations just a couple of days ago when people attacked parents that lost a child in the war, you know, because they were against Bibi, and they, you know, that crossing a red line, it was terrible. And then 2 days later, it repeated itself. You know, pro-Bibi demonstrated just really insulted and in very terrible words towards people who their political idea is against the prime minister, you know. What the hell? We're the same people. It's the same people. It's Israelis. We're here, you know. How can it become deteriorated to such low behavior? And it's unbelievable and so painful. We are all considered traitors by some of the population. It's very, very sad. I hope it will be over, you know, these terrible times for us. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Any other questions?
Yeah, no.
I have a question for you, Mayo. I hope if we can try to make another days like that day, because I like the communication with a lot of people, like that's people around the world. If you can to create another days, please say for us soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'm putting a stop in the third Zoom only because it started as I said, as one, and then it was just so many people and it expanded, and people reached out to me as well, or people suggested other people, or and I do feel there's a necessity to keep them going as well at the same time. So but yeah, let's see, as Sylvie said, let's see what the next chapter of Zooms is. But it's definitely going to be global rather than
continuation.
Yeah, to be continued. Absolutely.
Can I share one of my experiences? I mean, yeah, I know that this situation is full of disadvantages and full of downsides, but just for sharing a joyful experience in this pandemic time, I would like to talk about one of my own experiences. Actually, last year, this time, I started a theater class in Seattle with some people who were really interested in theater, and it was not in pandemic time. So we had our live class and we really enjoyed that. But suddenly when we were closing to the presentation, the final presentation, this pandemic happened and all the classes were closed, of course. And then I decided to make an online performance with all 15 students. But how could I do that? They all were in their own private places, and we had some classes with this Zoom, and actually I I didn't have them. I really didn't have them. But anyway, I was thinking about an idea that I know that so many people in all over the world were thinking about that, which was, okay, how can we make our houses or private places as theater stage? So I wrote a story, a very, very abstract lines of the story, and then asked the students to work on this and to develop their own parts. And then the funny thing is that one day I asked them to just move in their places and shows different angles and different parts of their own apartments or house or everywhere. And then I tried to find a place that was similar to stage. So for example, in one of the students' places, it was really funny experience. She has a very small apartment somewhere in Seattle. And then I asked her to just move through the apartment, and there were no interesting place through the apartment can be stage. And then we ended up with her bathroom. Her bathroom was really, really interesting, nice place. And then I was thinking that what if she just lay down into the bathroom and then do her own part in that place. So at that time, I was thinking, okay, pandemic is crazy, crazy disaster. But if it was not pandemic, I never could find a bathroom as a stage. So yeah, so anyway, after about 1.5 months rehearsal, it was really, really difficult, but because for like 3-4 hours just sitting in front of my computer, and I really wanted to touch them, but I couldn't. I sometimes really tried to touch them, but it was impossible. But it was really, really difficult, crazy situation. But anyway, we could make it. We could make it, and we performed a play called Kave's Birthday with about 15 or 16, I can't remember exactly. It was like 16 people, all in their own private stages, in their own houses. And then the interesting thing, in my opinion, was that I tried to find the situation for this story which can match with this situation, with this new situation. So it was like everybody came to Zoom, all the characters came to Zoom to celebrate one of our friends' birthday. That is what we normally do that after pandemic, which is very crazy. We always, make up our glasses and say cheers just in Zoom. So I got this situation, and I transformed this situation to a dramatic situation. All those 15, 16 people came to celebrate one of our friends' celebrity, the friend who was not in Zoom. So part of the conversation was, where is he? Where is Kaveh? And then finally, I can spoil the story because I'm sure that you never can watch this. But anyway, it was and we performed it live. So it was live. Everybody it was just live performance. So at the end, they understood that there is no Kaveh, no celebration boy, because it's just the game for them to gather in the Zoom and celebrate a imaginary character just for having an excuse to gather as people who immigrated and are so alone, are so lonely in their own places. So, and then we asked for donation. It was not good, but not too bad. It was something like, okay, I'm not going to talk about the amount, but it was something. So that experience was really, really interesting for me. I had really unusual in my life. I need to confess that I'm not going to repeat this experience. I don't know why. I don't like to repeat this. Maybe I don't want to believe that we will imprison in online theater forever. So I'm not going to repeat this experience, but just to share one of my experiences, I would like to tell you about what happened for me in the very, very beginning of this pandemic.
I must go now. So bye and thank you very much. Love you and leave you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Anat.
I have a question for Nagme. You were directing this, and so you had your script, and you know which of the 16 actors, each in their home camera. So you did your own keying yourself, did you? I want to hear just a little bit about the technical aspect.
Yeah, that is true. You can see right behind me this huge TV. Okay, that was a great device for directing all those 16 people, because I could see them at least a little bit bigger, and they all were there, and I asked them to keep silent and then let me work on the next part. But from the other hand, sometimes I asked them to be in rehearsal, just me and one of those actors, and I mean personally. It was really unusual. I asked them, for example, okay, Sylvia, that was really interesting misunderstanding through all this directing process. I sometimes, when I asked them to go to the right of their direction, they went to their their left. And from these very simple things to so many other details, we had lots of miscommunication. But yeah, I was sitting in front of my TV and they were all there, and I was telling them that, okay, so now it is time to do that, and now it's your part is end up, and then the next part is going on. So that was the process.
So then if you decide to do a TV series with that, you even have your character, because you could be doing like Harry David, the guy who worked with the Seinfeld, for example, have your commentary, and we would be seeing you trying to give the gros plan, I don't know how to say it in English, but doing your directing, actually working with 16 cameras. Now, many of these directors have worked with 3, 4, maybe 5 cameras. You have doubled it. It's a good story.
Yeah, that's true. I felt like I'm playing a game. So yeah, thank you.
Maestro. Thank you so much for joining and for coming, and I'll try and upload this soon on YouTube. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.